When it comes to politics, in my view, Donald Trump is and always has been a peacemaker. God knows we need one here. He's even being nice about Sir Keir Starmer. Earlier today, he said that he thinks Sir Keir Starmer has done a very good job so far, and he said the pair will speak over the phone over the next 24 hours. Well, let's hope Keir's cabinet can keep their mouths shut. Trump's messaging was so positive.
The golden age of America begins right now. America will reclaim its rightful place as the greatest, most powerful, most respected nation on earth. Our nation's glorious destiny will no longer be denied. I was saved by God to make America great again.
Instead of this dreary message.
Things will get worse before they get better.
The first thing Donald Trump has done since he came into power a few days ago was put illegal migrant criminals on a plane back to where they came. Over 500 in the first hit. Some people are even self-deporting. It's brilliant. None of this lengthy appeal nonsense paid for by the taxpayer. Here we have Sir Keir Starmer scrapping Rwanda, which appeared to have a deterrent effect, and banging on about smashing the gangs. So far, all talk and no action has more than ever entered this country illegally. Before his first term in office, I used to watch Donald Trump on the American version of The Apprentice. I loved him in it. So when he ran for president the first time, I was one of his biggest supporters. The backlash I got from this was off the scale. So-called well-meaning liberal types calling me all sorts of names and telling me he was a racist. How could I support him? I didn't buy this, obviously, because in the show, Donald was pretty fair-handed with everyone, irrespective of colour. It was about ability, and that is what it should be. When he was inaugurated this time round, on Martin Luther King Day, by the way, he even quoted the great man.
We will forge a society that is colorblind and merit-based.
I suspect none of them, his critics, had ever bothered watching the show that he was in, and like many of them jumped on a bandwagon of hate. The kind of people who pretended that Joe Biden was okay, even though anyone with eyes, ears and half a brain could see that he was never okay. Yet they were prepared to perpetuate a myth of competence even after a litany of gaffes.
And now I want to hand it over to the president of Ukraine, who has as much courage as he has determination. Ladies and gentlemen, President Putin.
Mind you, we've got our very own gaffe-prone leader right here.
I call again for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza, the return of the sausages, the hostages.
And in the UK, Donald Trump has scrapped, in the US, sorry, Donald Trump, see it's catchy, Donald Trump has scrapped DEI, net zero and forced civil servants back into the office. Trump says if you don't like it, find another job. But here we have a civil servants refusing to go into the office for even 2 days a week. Otherwise, they're going to go on strike. Trump has also picked people like J.D. Vance and Elon Musk. But here in the UK, we've got Rachel Reeves, who is now appearing to be trying to upturn a democratic vote by pushing us back into the EU, a failing, shrinking bloc, practically snubbing America in an ill-timed jaunt to China. Yvette Cooper attempting to crack down on our freedoms of expression and blaming everything on the internet. Angela Rayner with her ludicrous working hours and housing plans. Net zero mad Ed Miliband, education destroyer Bridget Phillipson and David Lammy. No words. In my view, a woeful bunch of misfits, and we have a leader Keir Starmer, a man who admitted knowing about the background of the Southport attacker but kept it quiet, infantilising the British people, creating an information gap. Nigel Farage was right. You could argue that Keir Starmer's behaviour helped to fan the flames, and of course his famous 19 seconds where he spent throwing down a reef at Southport and refusing to engage in conversation, and only now he admits he knew more. I could go on. Wes Streeting's got a nerve calling Nigel Farage a miserablist when the whole Labour Party, in my view, is an incompetent, depressing mess. What do you think? Am I right? Before we get stuck into the debate, here's what else is coming up today. For the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, do we need quicker action in British politics? Donald Trump has got to work swiftly in his first week back in the White House, seemingly doing more in the past 6 days than the Labour government have managed in 6 months. So for the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, do we need quicker action in politics? Then in Worldview, we will cross live to the United States and speak to the host of the Politics People podcast, Paul Dudridge, to discuss Donald Trump's first week back in the office. And in my second Great British Debate of this hour, I'm asking, is Rachel Reeves tone deaf? Earlier today, the Chancellor said that she is absolutely happy to look at joining EU customs groups. But wouldn't that undermine the democratic Brexit vote? All of that on the way. As ever, send me your thoughts, post your comments, gbnews.com/your say. Well, I'm joined now by the author of The End of America, Alan Friedman. Alan Friedman, thank you very much for joining
Hello.
me. Look, Donald Trump, surely he is sending such positive vibes. Everybody's engaging. People want to work with him. The energy and good power is behind him, is it not?
Donald Trump is certainly in America creating good vibes for Wall Street, for the markets, and certainly creating a sense of optimism about the economy in the short term, because he wants to cut all the regulations and cut the corporate taxes and try to, further stimulate the U.S. economy. But Donald Trump's popularity is with about 55% of America. So what you've got is a majority of Americans who want Donald Trump to do what he's doing, even though to the other half of America, it's controversial and it's considered, in some cases, a serious mistake, like the pardoning of the 1,600 insurrectionists from January 6th. In parts of Washington, even among Republicans, was considered a bridge too far.
But isn't that how democracy works? 55%, the majority rule. If they voted for him, Joe Biden was an absolute, utter car crash. He was a disaster, and he wasn't well either. And the American people felt hoodwinked, as did a lot of people around the world. To me, it was obvious the man couldn't really manage anything, and he wasn't actually pulling the strings. But that's how it works.
I agree with you, Nana. I agree that Joe Biden was a disaster. Okay, Joe Biden made the terrible mistake of Kabul, which was a humiliation for all of NATO and the United States and Europe, the withdrawal from Afghanistan. Joe Biden was unable to control Netanyahu or influence him in any way in the war in Gaza, and that created a lot of anti-Semitism, unfortunately, and it created a lot of anger against not just Israel, but Jews, which is unfortunate. And Joe Biden was not a great president by any means. I'm with you on that. The issue for us in America now is, will Donald Trump be a tolerant president, or will he cut civil rights? He's cut back on not just the gay and trans things, but he's cut back on a lot of the rights that Americans are used to. So I think Trump is taking an extreme approach at the beginning, and he will have to moderate his policies.
But he's right about DEI and net zero, and that a man can never
debatable.
be a woman.
I would. The man can never be a woman.
Are there? How many genders
Here's
are
the
there? How many genders are there in your view then? Because I can see there are two.
I would put it this way. It's an interesting paradox. Why is America, which voted overwhelmingly for Trump in like 50 states, two-thirds are against, two-thirds want to keep abortion rights for women. Two-thirds of America wants marijuana to be legal. I think these are social issues where America is more tolerant and liberal than it seems.
But America's good in the way, being a republic, that the states, each of the individual states can have levels of control. So
Sure,
it's not
sure.
like
And
in this country where, you know, Keir Starmer, our great leader, will say something and then we all have to go along with it.
No.
And the little microcosms of pockets around the country can't really do much about it. I mean, I don't know whether
I'll give you, if I
yeah.
could give you just one example, Nigel Farage. What would people in Britain say if Nigel Farage, on January 6th of some year, had a gang of people outside Westminster in Parliament and basically said, march down there, and they burst into Parliament and started wrecking the place and killed 4 policemen? Surely those people would not be pardoned by a future prime minister.
Well, it depends whether that's your version of events, but there are other versions that say that the people were relatively peaceful, but ultimately the bottom line is this. The bottom line is this. You can take a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. And I'm not sure that
5 people died.
Yeah,
5
but I'm not
policemen.
sure. But I don't think that he did say that they should go and march there and behave like that. In fact,
Well,
there was
no,
a point.
he didn't
there was
say
a
it
bit where
directly.
exactly.
You're right. You're
So he
right.
didn't say that. So my point is that
you're
if
right.
people feel incentivized to do that, then I don't know whether you can actually blame him for it. And as I understand it, yes,
yeah.
those who were violent should maybe be arrested, absolutely. But those who weren't, and there weren't 1,600 violent people there.
They've been freed. Unfortunately, they freed the ones, even the ones who killed policemen, which is unfortunate.
Well, that's, I mean, to me, maybe, you know, that's probably not the wisest move. But the majority of the
Right.
people that were there didn't do anything. And, you know, so I would agree with you that maybe the ones who killed people shouldn't have been released.
Probably half and half.
Yeah.
Probably half and half.
But it wasn't half and half. I mean, you know, the ones who committed murder, in my view, shouldn't be released. But
Then
pretty
we
much.
agree.
Yeah, we agree on that. But I would say that the majority of people probably weren't really
But can
doing
I
it.
say something about British interests?
Please do.
I think Keir Starmer and Trump probably established a friendly relationship. I know Trump. I know what he's like to be with. And I'm sure that Keir Starmer going to Trump Tower, sitting down, was the kind of flattery that Trump appreciates. And he would enjoy the fact that the British Prime Minister paid homage to him before the election. That kind of stuff Trump remembers.
So what do you make? What do you make of the British political scene, though, here in comparison? If you compare the two leaders, even though you criticise Trump, he has energy, charisma, but then you look at our leader, and it's so negative.
Keir Starmer seems like a very pale and weak and indecisive. Not a great leader. That's true. That's the way he appears. More technocratic than anything else. More almost like a yes minister type. But he is the center left, which did crush the Tories in the last election. So, like him or not, you're kind of stuck with him, I think, for a while. And I think that there was a lot of mediocrity in the Sunni Rishak government, and also in the Theresa May government. I think David Cameron's big mistake, but you're not going to like me for saying this, but seen from America, you never should have done Brexit because you lost economic growth and you lost economically. And I think you shouldn't go back to the European Union, but you should do the kind of trade deal that Norway has, where you are outside the EU, but not subject to their law, but you have a open trade area.
Well, you know what? I don't think that they were amenable to this deal. It's common sense from the EU. I get what you're saying, but we in the United Kingdom wanted to have control of our destiny. And especially with our laws, if someone had been maybe imprisoned for something, people could go to the European Court of Human Rights and say, oh, but it wasn't fair because I'm going to lose my right to this or right to that. So we then actually were, we were, our power was taken away. So that is one of the reasons, but also there was issues with undercutting workers within this country too. So I think the British people, in my view, made the right decision, but I think the politicians have handled it very badly.
But my only prediction is this will be a golden age for Nigel Farage because Donald Trump will embrace him and help him in any way. Elon Musk is less reliable. He tends to change his opinion, so be careful there. Elon Musk can be pro-Farage, anti-Farage, depending on the ketamine he takes that day.
Well, that's not fair. He's not here to defend himself. We don't know that for sure. But Alan Friedman, thank you very much.